Hello.
Are you wearing a bonnet?
You see a bonnet, I see the helmet of salvation. You see an army green shirt, I see the breastplate of righteousness.
Helmet of salvation, sissy, get it right. Hi.
Guys, I'm a daughter. Men will do the most, I tell you. TV, bonnet, to one side.
Listen. Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And of course, some men.
100%. There are some angels out there.
How you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm good. All right, one.
No, you're sharp.
How's your week been?
It's been fine. We've sprung forward. So in the UK, our clocks have gone an hour forward, and I am feeling it.
Aren't you?
Like I feel
tired. More tired?
Yeah. I'm like, I want my hour back.
I know. As I keep thinking, I look at the time, like it's 7. I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let that for some time. But it's nice that the weather is changing as well. You know, get a little bit of vitamin D.
Yes. But no, it's all good. I am looking forward to the sun. I'm looking forward to things opening up, hairdressers, nail shops, gyms. Like, I am so looking forward to that. Like, it has been so long, since December.
Sigh.
Yeah.
But here we are. We wait. We march forward.
Exactly. Okay. So, before we go on, just so first of all, just shout out to our Patreon guys. By the way, there is an episode that is out, so you should check your inbox. Episode 2, where Xolie kind of opened up a little bit. Xolie, do you want to give them a flavor?
A little bit. That was a whole lot of opening up.
Okay.
Honestly, it was, so anyway, at our last episode, I did not just open up a little bit, as Natasha is saying. I proper opened up and shared my story and my journey, I guess, being a teenage mom, and how navigating the world, not navigating the world, because I wasn't really navigating the world, but navigating my life, I suppose, after leaving school and everything and having my child, and then going back to school and being a mom and stuff. So I talked a little bit about that, but it is exclusive to our Patreon family. So, and shout out to everybody who sent out comments and reached out. It was really nice, really touching that you guys thought it was touching. And for me, it's just a part of me. And I think what I said to someone, I was like, I'm just learning to be comfortable with that side of me as well. So I need to be comfortable with hearing it and sharing it. So yeah. So sign up to our Patreon, people. It's not always going to be stories like that. It's going to be interesting. We've got a whole load of stuff planned. So yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Xolie. And also last week, our episode was a salute to our mothers.
Yes.
So that's the one that's, everyone can listen to. If you haven't listened to, if you have not listened to it yet, please do. It was just a little, we walked down sort of memory lane, reflecting on our moms and stuff. And thank you so much for the comments. I will just read out some, and thank you for the people that messaged us as well. So on Instagram, I will read out a comment. This is a message that came through. Someone was like, ladies, listening to your podcast this morning and thinking of my mom who passed on 2 years ago. Thank you for such insightful and heartwarming conversation about mothers. My daughter is 20 and my mom also came through for me, just like Usis B. And then she went on to tell us what her mom's name was, and it was Nyabonga ladies, thank you, love and light. Thank you so much. I think I won't say who it is in case they don't say.
On Twitter, there was a comment from @Wengosi, who, when you talked about how you feel you haven't achieved anything, she was like, I can totally relate to that. I totally relate to what Nat is saying about not feeling like you've achieved stuff in life. It can stem from seeing your peers at a certain place in their lives, but honestly, it is personal. When you have goals and dreams that you have had for a while and they haven't come to fruition, it can leave you feeling like you have failed or you are behind in life.
Mm-hmm. And then at the Nessa Fix, Vanessa's like, not y'all making me cry with this Mother's episode. I know it's not the same, but you know we can share mine. We love you. Like, thank you so much.
She's more hours than yours, really. But yeah. And shout out to Sane Ndini, who was like, hey, I'm also a Patreon, can't wait for exclusive Mukosi. Like, yes, shout out to you, Sane, and thank you for being joining our Patreon family.
And then there was one from at Mr. _Ngubeni, who was like, who is cutting onions at Xolie NC?
And also at Cray Cuckoo. She said the last part of Girl Disguise was just touching. It's true how we forget that our parents once had lives before us.
And also just shout out to at Teteba Ian, I hope I'm saying it right. She was like, thank you, where have you been all my life? And then also in the previous episode, she was like, she was commenting on the pod swap that we did. She was like, Xolie is a vibe, definitely starting to listen to Galen's Guys podcast, episode 5 out of 72. So it was somebody who went, and actually, as we are talking, I literally just got a message come through. Like, I literally just got I will say it, I won't say who, I don't know. They just text me. She was like, he was like, listened to the Salute to Mothers podcast. You guys, that was incredible. The segue from your own personal ambitions, perspectives on motherhood to then getting into the memories of your moms and what they were all about. A profound episode. Tayol Kubeg with the stellar work. Thank you so much to our fave. I don't know if he likes it when we talk about him or not. You know who it is.
And at Janice also sent a message saying, this is going to be the best pod ever. I'm really sorry I didn't know your mom. Your mom's passed so young, definitely an angel. Where would we be without our mothers? And she's like, thank you for sharing. So thank you for listening, Janice. And also thank you to Noble as well. People who always listen and send little messages, like, it's really nice. And thank you to our fave for sharing that comment.
Yeah. So, but no. Thank you so much. So, okay. So I just wanted to touch on just a little bit on the politics front. And I just noticed that every time we're like the politics segment, but I realized that we've got some newer listeners. So just to clarify, like with the politics segment, it's just highlighting, things that generally we think are interesting, but really mainly from an African perspective, right? So most of our focus will be talking about African politics. Actually, it's African politics. But if there's anything interesting that is happening in the West, we will highlight. But it's because, with African politics, I feel like there's definitely, if you are not in Africa, sometimes you don't get the news. And sometimes even if you are in Africa, you may not know what is happening in neighboring countries just because of the way the media is set up. So just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so on the African politics side, just wanted to highlight, so there's been insurgency attacks happening in Mozambique. I don't know if you have come across that. But
missing and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's something that is sort of developing and ongoing. But there are worrying reports about what's happening in Mozambique. Apparently, there are militants, according to the BBC, they say Islamist militants have ambushed a convoy that was trying to rescue civilians from a hotel amid fighting in the northern part of Mozambique. So far, there's been a South African man that has been confirmed as dead. And apparently hundreds of people, approximately 200 people, have fled the fighting, which began on Wednesday in the town of Palma. And evacuees include a lot of NGO workers, foreign gas workers, and the French energy company Total said that it was forced to suspend operations at a huge gas project nearby. And so Human Rights Watch say that witnesses described seeing bodies on the streets, residents fleeing after the fighters fired indiscriminately at people and buildings. Apparently, the northern part of Mozambique has been torn apart by insurgencies since 2017. And they're saying that the militants are linked to the Islamic State group and are behind the conflict in the predominantly Muslim region of Cabo Delgado. It's just something that personally I probably just need to look into a little bit more, because Mozambique is a neighboring country of where we're from, which is Zimbabwe. And I guess also Mozambique not being an English speaking country, sometimes it feels like we're not as close to it, even though we're geographically close to it.
Yeah.
So that's the Mozambique piece. Also then moving on to Tanzania. So in a previous episode, we actually talked about President Magufuli, who hadn't been seen in public for a number of days, and unfortunately, it was confirmed that he passed away. So he was he was buried last week, and actually, it's been interesting for me, sort of just trying to get a better picture of the feeling of what people feel. So obviously, most of us have got to know the president of Tanzania because he was a COVID skeptic and his approach to COVID was different, right?
I mean, this man started a 72-hour prayer and fasting to kind of remove the spirit of COVID. He was convinced that if you had the blood of Jesus coursing through your very veins, you wouldn't get COVID.
And there was barely any lockdown in Tanzania at all. So the thing is, his death. So I think sort of seeing that he was such a COVID skeptic, and then his unfortunate passing. Although I think the official reports from Tanzania have not said that it was due to COVID, there are reports that it was, right? Yeah. But I think so I was sort of seeing when he passed away, people have been, there's been an outpouring of condolence messages, and there are some people in Tanzania who feel really strongly about his passing. He's viewed as a Pan-Africanist. He never traveled outside of Africa, apparently, to get any medical help. He was seen as a trailblazer. The people who have been who have felt that some of the lockdown measures across the globe have infringed on freedoms, have sort of seen him as a hero. And if you really go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, there are wild conspiracy theories about what actually happened and what led to his demise. So it's not a simple sort of black and white picture of okay, there was this man and then look at him, then he died. So it's I personally be interested if there's anyone who actually lives in Tanzania or is Tanzanian, like please hit us up. Like I'm personally interested in sort of like hearing the narrative, because I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like a Robert Mugabe, where maybe people outside of the country feel one way versus those that are there. But I thought that was sort of just interesting to highlight. And then we know that the person who's taken over, the vice president, Samia Suluhu Hassan. Doctor, my apologies. My apologies. Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan has taken over. She is the first woman president in East Africa. So that is a big deal. So we'll see, what that means in terms of the direction of travel for Tanzania. And then I just wanted to just lastly, this is now like a few weeks old, really. But so now going to Zimbabwe, right? So a few weeks ago, there was an I think this started from there's an article that was published by Alex Magaisa on basically sort of like trying to paint the picture of what different people's experiences in Zimbabwe, and like how, although they may oppose the government of the day, like some people, for example, have Gugura Hundi that hasn't been addressed and all that stuff, right? So something sort of like, which I thought was noteworthy, sort of happened, and I just kind of want to paint a picture with this. So so Siphosami Malunga, who happens to be Sidney Malunga's son, I thought that was the way to sort of, because many people know Sidney Malunga, but Siphosami is also like he's an activist. He's I believe like a lawyer and does stuff around Southern Africa. So he quote tweeted that and was like, anyone claiming to support any struggle in Zimbabwe and beyond must read this. For example, some of us have been dealing with this reality for years. We experienced ZANU-PF violence in the 80s, whilst the rest of Zim only saw it in the 2000s. It was genocidal in our case. Understand this, right? I mean, I looked at that and I was like, yeah, like we've been saying this for a very long time, right? And then there was a response from Hopewell Chinono, the journalist, right? And then he quote tweeted and said, I disagree with you, at Sipho Malunga, on your assertion that the rest of the country only experienced ZANU-PF violence post-2000, exclamation mark. That assertion whitewashes the people killed during and after the war by ZANU-PF. Families lived in fear in townships across the country post-independence. And then this led to like a back and forth between the two and wider discussion. So the reason I wanted to sort of mention that was, so for me, this comes to the heart of some of my frustration with Zimbabwe, right? So, we know Hopewell, he's been quite outspoken about the corruption. He was in jail. He was treated so unfairly. We did the whole Free Hopewell, hashtag Zimbabwean Lives Matter, which is fine and, needed to be done. But I thought this was so uncalled for because essentially, because what Siphosami Malunga was saying was, okay, yeah, read this article. Like maybe this will help you get a better understanding of where some people are coming from. Because there's been so in Zimbabwe, there is the Mtwakazi Republic Party, which is calling for, cessation. What is it called? How do you pronounce it? Like they want a separate state, calling for a separate state, right? And actually, you need to understand why people feel a certain way.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then for Hopewell to come and given the voice that Hopewell has, right? The following that he has, to choose to come and to, when we're highlighting this issue, and to choose to diminish it by saying, no, not this, and come and all lives matter this situation, I thought was completely uncalled for, right? Because it diminishes what we are saying. Of course, we know that, of course, his tweet was absolute, because it's Twitter. You have 280 characters. You're not going to say, oh, we know the majority of Zimbabweans, but however, these people did it. But, you got the spirit of what was being said, that actually for a lot of people, leaving Zimbabwe was not new. A lot of people from Matabeleland, a lot of people from those parts left in the 80s, left in the 90s. There was mass exodus at that time. These are the issues that people have been grappling with, to the point where people are now like, you know what, we want to be our own separate state. And it's a small voice of people in any case, right? But then for Hopewell to use his voice, right, which I feel like is a big voice, to come and totally diminish this, just talks to the heart of what we're dealing with. Because people will be like, okay, we're talking about ZANU-PF must go, we need a new government. Are these the people that you want to replace them with? So now I understand why when I was growing up, right, you would literally hear people, right, our grandparents or whatever, just saying, you know what, these are Harare issues. Leave Harare, people in Harare to deal with it. Right. And honestly, I just thought, okay, this is like ridiculous, because what is this? If you cannot understand such a simple concept, right, of just appreciating just one thing, every time we talk about the genocidal effect, every time we talk about the issues that are happening in that region, every time we talk about why there's ill feeling when you're going to go to a village where there's a particular language that is spoken, Ndebele, and you have teachers that cannot relate to the pupils and to the local people in that language, why that's an issue. Every time we try to highlight that, you guys diminish it. Why my language? Like, why the heck should we ever even coalesce with you guys and be strong voices with you guys in this issue? So for me, it just really, like, I've seen it. I want to talk about it on the podcast because I'm tired of social media, because I think we've just been saying the same things. I think people just don't want to understand. And for me, it's just like, okay, so does it mean that as people who are not the majority, people in Zimbabwe, right, who I don't identify, like, where is home? Like, is our home in digital places? So for me, I really took issue with that whole conversation, because then, Hopeless people were like, yes, this, you guys want to deviate. And then, like, people act like they don't understand why people would want to call for a separate state. Not that we agree with it, but you have to understand there's going to be levels of feeling, right? There are going to be some people that are, okay. And then there's some people that are like, we want the extreme. And actually, unpopular opinion, you do need a touch of that, right? In a state, because you need people to kind of look at the United Kingdom. Scotland is like, there is a threat of Scotland leaving the Union all the time. And what does that mean? Scotland, amongst all the other devolved nations, probably gets more, even in terms of budget, more than like Northern Ireland, more than Wales per capita, because there is always that threat of them leaving. So if you are a political government, if you're a political outfit and a government, and you cannot navigate a small group of people threatening, I cannot pronounce this word, and it's making me lose my flow. Cessation, right? If you cannot navigate that, then you're useless. Like, that is just politics. Like, everywhere we talked about it even in Spain. We know that the people from Catalina Island, like they want to be their own state, and the government has to deal with it. So it just, I'm just foreseeing a situation where a lot of people will just divest from Zim. Like, just please just at me when things in Zim are better, because all of you are just yeah, no,
Planning.
sorry.
Not all, some. And I think you have to appreciate it. I think Hopewell, we were busy here Chaying and everything, saying free Hopewell. And then literally 2 days after he's been released, he just started going like sharp left on Twitter. So I think I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know that much about him, to be honest, as I know I know he's got a voice. I know that he's somebody who could have an impact with the work that he does. But I also don't know about his views and his thoughts on certain issues. Like, I've seen the way he feels. I don't know, is it about our quote unquote the young generation, in that I don't know if he feels that we're a bit lost or what it is. I don't know. I just seen so many of his tweets on social media, and you don't know, is this just for clout, or is it just for for attention, or whatever it is. But he does he's got a lot of unpopular opinions, and yet we know Utiena, he's one of those few who are living quite lavishly. We've seen his house. We've all seen his house, his garden. But yeah, anyway, sorry that they upset you, sis. What happened?
Okay, one last thing is just to say, listen, Hopewell is just a person like everyone, right? But I think I just wanted to sort of, it's not just about Hopewell, it's about the people that were kind of echoing that. I think it was unhelpful for Hopewell to say that, because it emboldened people, and I think it took the conversation in that way. But I just think sometimes you don't need to talk about everything. Sometimes you can sit things out, sometimes you can listen. Like, you don't always have, like, you can just sit it out. But then you're dealing with people that are just really, because silencing someone is violence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, you are like, that is violence. So that's my issue. On Clubhouse, what did they say? This is Natasha speaking, and I made my points. Thank you. When did they start doing that on Clubhouse? Like, I was like, the other day, I was like in that room, and I was like, oh, I didn't know this was the memo. I didn't get the memo.
I was actually going to ask that. I was actually going to say, like, what is happening on Clubhouse? I haven't been on Clubhouse in forever. Like, what's going on there? I found it to a point. I really enjoyed Clubhouse before. I really enjoyed Clubhouse. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know. I don't know what happened, guys. Clubhouse was, I felt a safe space. I felt like, oh my goodness, it was nice. And then what's happening now? Like, what do people, what are the clubhouses, is there still a huge presence of people from?
It's the classism for me.
I was just like, no, it was just like a sharp left again. I was like,
No, listen, I think, and actually this is how celebrities felt when we joined Clubhouse, right? Because remember when we joined, like, November, December, like, literally, like, celebrities would be in rooms, like, common would be, like, you'd get into a room and it's like, hey, what? But they've stopped being on there now that we're there. So it's the same effect, right? Because it kind of stops feeling exclusive. But actually, Clubhouse is what you make it. It's who you follow. Listen, I'm always on there. I'm mostly like in property rooms, because I'm like, yo, in decades from now, I want to be a property more investor, whatever. So I'm always in like those type of rooms, and I find them helpful. And sometimes you just know, like I do find some of the like some of our discussions are, it's just this yeah, anyway, yeah. Someone said on Twitter, someone was like, on Zoom Twitter, people talk about private schools, then next they'll talk about lobola, then next they'll talk about I forget what else, then we're back to Christmas, then we start the cycle all over again.
Yeah. Oh, I love my people. I really do. But I remember I even went into one clubhouse and they were talking about, and again, it's just that whole generation gap, and you don't know who you're talking to up until they say, I came here like when I was like 18, 2 years ago, kind of thing. I was in one room and they were talking about, but why is it that Zimbabweans are not united? They were talking about, I remember one girl was saying about how her mom doesn't like anything to do with Zimbabwe. She turns the TV off. The moment there's Zimbabwe on TV, she'll change the channel. And I realized that, you know what, this room is just full of people my daughter's age. And when they talk about the mothers, this is me. They're talking about me. And I was like, I know, of course, I don't turn off the TV. I love them. I was like, oh, you know, it is time. It is time for me just to. So yeah, I've given it a bit of a break. But you know, you're right. It's definitely about who you follow. And I will eventually be back, I suppose. Okay, so enough about Clubhouse and all that jazz. There has been a lot that's been happening in the cheating world, or in the scandalous world of some men. One being Derrick Jaxn. Like he's a self-proclaimed relationship expert. He really bases the advice that he gives on the Word of God. He has been married. He's been married for the past 4 years, I think. I was reading somewhere. I think they've got kids as well. But anyway, this guy, he's wrote books. He has literally been teaching women about how to put yourself first, love yourself, and all this stuff to kind of preserve, and how to be in relationships, how to preserve your relationships and all this stuff. And yet, for the past year, he has been, and he came out himself and said that, you know what, I have been with women, you know, multiple women. One woman has actually come out recently and said that she's pregnant, or was pregnant with his child, with his baby. They all claim that they didn't have any idea that he was married or whatever it is. So it just made me think. I was like, you know, who do you then get? I mean, first of all, I think we acknowledge that he is a man, but it's that whole portrayal of, you know what, this is what to do in order to prevent getting into a relationship with a man who's going to cheat on you, or this is what to do. So he's got a lot of followers, you know, there's a lot of people who listen to him, who listen and take his advice to heart. And there's probably some woman out there who's literally done everything that she can do to either get into a relationship or to preserve her relationship. And yet, you know, complete opposite of what he has been saying. For the past year, this man has been cheating. You know, it almost feels like cheating is like will we ever get tired of, will we not get tired of talking about cheating? I don't think we'll get tired of talking about cheating, because there is always going to be somebody who's cheating out there. But when somebody of this kind of, I just feel like it's just such betrayal. He's like such a man who has been like, oh, you know what? He wrote a book on a cheating man's heart. I haven't read it, but I saw that I don't know what it's about, or maybe he's just talking about how to cheat. I don't know. But I just feel like, you know, he then takes his poor wife, drags her onto the screen. He's literally gripping that woman's hand like, you know, it's the last thing it's the gateway to heaven. And she is on there. And I feel like Danea, I think that's how you say her name, has also come under such scrutiny because of how she presents herself. And some women also have also come out and said, you know what, how can you not expect your man to cheat on you with the way that you are? And I always feel like this is what happens. You know, you have a man who cheats, he'll do all crazy sorts of things. I thought he was gay for a moment in time. I was waiting for some allegations to come out. You know, he's done such damage, you know, not only to his wife, but to all the people that who listen to him. He's done all this, but always the focus then shifts to the woman. I feel like that is just so crazy. So now they're like, oh, but if she dressed better, if she lost weight, if she looked a certain way, if she spoke a certain way, then he wouldn't have cheated. Why can we not just focus on the cheating bastard? Like, why can't we do that? Why can't we just focus on him and everything that he has done? Why can't we just look at his behaviors? Why can't we just look at the way that he has gone against the things that he has spoken about? And, you know, I am not, again, you know, it's the whole, he's a man, you know, whether he's a man of God or not. We have known many pastors, many people who have come out and fallen short of the glory of God. You know, that is not my issue. My issue is how we then always go to the woman. Why do we do that? Like, why do we always kind of focus on the woman? This is what she should have done. So that's number one. And then number two is also on the woman. How, like, I think there has been a lot of scrutiny in her mental health as well, because some people are like, you know, she's not right. To come out on a theme, bonnet, you know, it's like, what has gone through? Has she been given that time to be like, you know, did she want to do that? I think there's all these questions. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Like, you know, what do you think about the whole cheaters or cheating scandals that some men put some women through? And also, like, why is it that whole narrative of, you know, why do we find that, you know, for men, when women cheat, men literally burn the freaking house down. Like, they will leave, you know, after doing all sorts of things. But with women, it's almost kind of not, I don't know, I think it didn't surprise me that she stayed, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you?
Yeah. So I guess before we kind of like pivot away from Derrick Jaxn and whatever, I just wanted to play a little clip of, this is the clip of him and his wife, the hostage clip, where he's like holding her hand for dear life, and kind of coming, you know, coming forward and saying that, yeah,
that she's the gateway to salvation. That's how hard he was gripping that hand.
Exactly. Let me see if we can hear. Hold on.
One that was preceded by marriage that I completely failed. And I would say it just started around August, maybe September of last year. But, you know, a lot has been said already about what was the cause and all that other stuff. Some of it is true. Some of it is completely false. But the truth is, and I'm saying it here now, is that Derrick Jaxn was involved with other women outside the marriage. And by involved, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about just casually kicking it, maybe a lunch or something like that. I'm talking about as serious as sex, to sexual flirtation and meeting up and that kind of thing. And some things that otherwise may be considered okay by some in terms of like just chatting or checking on people or being checked on by people that I've had a previous encounter with. But without my wife's knowledge of it and with us having a sexual history, all of it falls under the umbrella of inappropriate, cheating, affair, step.
So this Derrick Jaxn thing, right? First of all, I did not know this man. Like, I maybe I've seen his videos and stuff, but I was not familiar with him, right? And I think the issue here for me, so I'll talk about the Derrick Jaxn and then like just generally. I think with the Derrick Jaxn thing, it's more about the hypocrisy, because and there's a number of things at play, which is why the story became big. And actually, I must say, like, me and my young brother, like, this Derrick Jaxn story, like, for a proper 3 days straight, we were like going back and forth, like sending each other links and everything, because he had a view of it, and like it was just fascinating, right? So the thing is, right, so how I understand it, Derrick Jaxn, relationship expert, and he was like, you know, the type of guy who tells women, like, you know what, these are the standards that you need to set. This is what happens. I think actually, apparently, he was like, if a man cheats on you, or if you discover that he's cheated, or he confesses this is not his first time, you know, like those kind of things, and obviously, like, you know, very much know your worth. Like, he was a very like know your worth champion type thing. A lot of the stuff that I think is sound to an extent, or, you know, like, we eat up. But here's the issue, right? This guy is young. I don't even know how old he is, right? He's definitely not more than 40.
Yeah.
And apparently, they've only been married for 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? So first of all, you know, I think there is just, and I think we've said this before, like, you can never be absolute in your speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with him, it was like, again, I don't know this guy, right?
31.
31. Sorry, what is a 31-year-old doing giving life advice?
Yeah.
Like, you've hardly had life. And it's not to say a 31-year-old cannot have wisdom, right? But I think there's just a way that you approach things. But again, this is his business, talking, giving relationship advice. So that's what he was doing, like, just talking, giving relationship advice. What kind of makes this a little bit, well, is because men, and again, I'm generalizing, like, hate guys like Derrick Jaxn, right?
Well, thank you.
That's why when this came out, you saw people like Lil Duval, you saw people like guys that I know were like, yes, like, because they hate a Derrick Jaxn, because they're like, oh, you're and again, it's a warped way, because they're basically like, you're not being realistic to women, right? You're telling people know your worth, and then you have the Kevin Samuels. Have you heard of this Kevin Samuels guy?
I have heard of Kevin Samuels.
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
So Kevin Samuels is on the other end of Derrick Jaxn.
On the other spectrum.
Kevin Samuels is rude, right?
Blatantly rude.
He's rude. His whole thing is about, I feel like, bringing women down in a way.
And it's not just women. There's men who go on there and I don't know. It's like the moment you give these people like a pedestal or an elevation to kind of talk about things, a platform, and they feel that they're better than you, this is what they do. And this is what Kevin Samuel does. I've listened to him addressing men and like literally stripping a man of his dignity. And he does that with women as well. So yeah, sorry, continue.
No. But then someone will say to you, you know what, Kevin is better because he's being real, right? No. Because what Kevin Samuel does, right, is he will say, you know, you call in, he's like, and this whole thing about a high value man, you know, people who want men earning 6 figures, right? So he'll be like, how old are you? How much do you weigh? How many kids do you have? Okay, so you're telling me that you with XYZ, you're saying you want a high value man, yet ABC, right? And the thing is, it's so there's this friend of mine, he made a comment on Facebook, which I thought was like, just saying it all. Say that Kevin and Derrick are the exact same person. So this is my friend, Ryan Jacobs. So like, Kevin and Derrick are the exact same person. They both exploit the insecurities of Black women just on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And say Kevin holds women accountable at the expense of often putting them down. And Derrick holds men accountable by doing the exact same, right? So most women don't like it because it's the putting down. Derrick as well is the putting down, right? And then when I say, even though there is some truth to both of their messaging, both approaches are unhelpful and damaging in their own ways. However, part of the reason some men like Kevin is because they know there are folks like Derrick out there feeding women falsehoods and unrealistic expectations of men and relationships, which ultimately has kept much of the audience single, waiting for the perfect, flawless, high-earning man who does no wrong to come and scoop them, knowing that is never going to happen. And then says Kevin brings them back down to reality, but admittedly too harshly. And then went on to say the fact that so many women loved Derrick's messaging but hate Kevin's is exactly why Derrick was able to get away with his scam for so long. They were happy to have their ears tickled, even if it yields them no results. The hope he was selling was enough for them. Kevin does not care to tickle anyone's ears. I've heard him call a woman average at best, and I've heard him tell a man he has no business trying to chase a 10 out of 10 woman because he's broke, whatever. So it's really about, so it's this whole people want to hear what they want to hear in a way. And for me, it's also kind of like, are we to blame for listening to these people, right? Like for buying into it? Because if you take what Derrick is saying in isolation, right? I think, again, I've never really listened to his stuff, but it proves probably basic things, have standards. If a man cheats on you, he's cheated on you before, and all that stuff. But we know that what? Life is gray. It is not black and white. It is very nuanced. And we've always said this before, you can never be absolute in your statement.
I totally agree.
It's not absolute. And you know what? That absolute talking comes with the naivety of being young.
I think also lack of experience, because you cannot know somebody's full experience. You can never know that, you can, and just like we say, or some men do this, we generalize and say men do this, but the honest truth is not all men do that. Same with women, and you can never know someone's full experience. You can never know. I can't stand up and speak for every Black woman. I don't know every Black woman's experiences. I can't stand up and speak for every, even as a profession, I can't speak for every nurse. I don't know every nurse's experience. I can't speak for every mother's experience, but I can share my views and my opinions. And I think this is where we go wrong. But I think also when people are, there's an element that people just want to kind of better, you want to better your relationships. And which is why some people end up listening to the likes of Derrick Jaxn, who you look at him, he's saying the right words, he is speaking eloquently, he looks good, he's not an ugly man, so he is basing his values and the words that he gives as wisdom, he's basing that on scripture. And I think automatically that draws a lot of people in. How can you not trust him? He's married, he's got kids, he's a family man. How can you not trust that? But my issue is when, and I am one who loves, I love self-help books. I loved self-help books. But then I realized that, as time progresses, there's only so much listening and taking in that you can do. You now need to go out and experience it, and you might find better ways, or you might find ways in which you deal with things that are better for you. What I feel that what's happening in society is that we want to do better, and I think we want to be better mothers. We want to be better better partners, and we want to be better people in general. So you then attach yourself to these people who come out and say things that are very absolute and, building hope in people. And it's not, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily the right way, because at the end of the day, these people are just people, and what you see of them is literally 2 minutes, 10 minutes of their daily lives. You don't see the full picture, even people who portray to have very happy, thriving relationships, you find that there's issues. And I think that I have grown to appreciate and acknowledge as I have grown older. I've literally moved from the sort of person who was, and I always say this, that me reading a lot of books when I was younger, read all those, from the time I started reading was Cinderella till the time I read or Nancy Drew or whatever it was, like that had an impact on the way that I think, and then, you take those thoughts, you take those happily ever afters, and you want to put those into relationships. But what they don't tell you is what happens after the happily ever after. And I think that is what's the most important thing, So what Derrick Jaxn is saying to you about knowing your worth and et cetera, it's okay, but how is he treating his wife? We don't know that. We don't know how he's treating his wife. We don't know if his wife is somebody who knows her worth. What words does he say to her for her to know her worth? Does he affirm her? We don't know these things. And what I have also experienced, and unfortunately it's not the best thing, is that you get to know through your friends, through family, that people struggle in relationships. They're just abused emotionally, verbally. There's all these other bits, but they'll come out, they'll post a picture smiling and happy families, but there is so much more that's going on. And I think that is what you need to take with each person. With each book that you read, you need to appreciate that the person who's writing that book is just a person. They also have gone through shit. They are going through shit. They're struggling in some way or the other. They're just a human being.
And I think for me, the thing is like, there's nothing wrong with being inspirational and all that stuff. But then as someone who was not familiar with him, my issue and what sort of like has just made me be like, big red flag, is how he has presented his wife and treated his wife. So I know like we talked about the wife, but the fact is, right, my understanding is this guy has been doing videos and all that stuff, but hardly ever talking about his wife or his family life, which is fine because a lot of people, protect their private life, right? But the minute you have been out here spreading it wide, laying it low, you're bringing your wife to do the video. No. So for me, I'm like, you know what? As a man, as a husband, as he says, he follows godly principles. If he does, you know that your job as the man is to pastor your family, is to protect your family. So that woman should have not been on camera. So you know well that he's the one who definitely was like, you know what, let's have a united front. I think probably coerced her in some way. Like he should have taken it like a man and just come out on his own and not let his wife to be on camera. Again, about her looks, listen, that she's a beautiful woman, and I think we shouldn't even go down like that road, because I can imagine like just the lack of energy that you'd have kind of dealing with that, right? And then we had the video where she posted and all that stuff. Listen, I get it, right? I am very familiar with church culture. I say it's church culture because God's word is not cruel. God's word doesn't necessarily want you to just bear everything and whatever. And definitely if there were wise people, like you definitely don't need to come out and be defending your man. He did this on his own, right? Yes, you can believe that, I am going to fight the best way I know how, which is, through spiritual warfare and whatever. Do it in private, but there is absolutely no need to be coming out in public and literally like going to bed for this man. Absolutely not. And for me, I blame Derrick because he's not protecting his wife. A protected woman wouldn't.
But he stopped protecting her the moment he started. He was sleeping with women.
Yeah.
Unprotected. Somebody's pregnant. There's a woman who's pregnant.
Yeah.
Stop protecting her from that very moment.
Of course, but he did further damage by even like bringing. It shows that he's self-serving. It comes back to his age.
Oh God, yeah, he's such a narcissistic man, and that whole speaking in the third person, like that was so strange.
Yeah, and do you see the reaction video where he was kind of
like that man is not right in the head. I'm sorry, there's something that has gone. A switch that has, misfired or something. Something's gone wrong.
Yeah, so I think he just made the whole situation worse. Like, he literally could have come out and been like, you know what, my bad, I'm so sorry. And again, the reason why this has had like attention is because men are like, gotcha, because you have been what? He has been saying things at the expense of putting down men.
And there was another guy, like I read a comment, there's another guy that Derrick had actually called out, and a pastor. And this man had an emotional relationship with somebody. And Derrick called him out on that, blah, blah. It was a whole thing. And we're like, man, you're doing the exact same thing, plus more. But yeah, I agree with you in that, it doesn't matter what his wife looked like, because even if she had come on and, put on the face on and everything, there'd have been somebody out there who still have had something to say about the way she looks. And I feel like that is where we just as society go wrong. It's like, let's focus on this cheating man. Let's focus on let's ask him, when you were going, like, what was it that you were lacking? What was it? Not only that you were lacking, because you can't have been lacking anything. What were you looking for? What is it? Let's try and figure it out. But instead of trying to find out why men cheat, we are focusing on the poor woman who has now had to come out saying her bonnet is the helmet of salvation, her sandals on the feet in Tanzania. She's now having to come in to explain her stuff. And there is no need for that. No need. Men will cheat. Some men will cheat. Beg your pardon.
There is
that the men don't cheat. The men don't cheat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Listen, there is no need to try and figure out why any man does anything. Save yourselves, my ancestors. Like, you literally just go to sleep. It's fine. Like, don't try and figure it out. You will
not a strange species like men, not all of them. Some of them, but it just amazes me that, a man will do what a man wants to do. A man, you can be with somebody for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and he will never buy you even a single flower, but then he leaves you. 2 days later, he's with someone and that person is getting a bouquet. Like, it's just so straight. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, I really, really don't. But I don't think we ever will. I think these are questions that even the previous generation were like, hey, amadoda. Not all of them, some of them. And here we are, we're still saying the same thing. And I think our children's children would be wondering, hey, but guys, if I get the opportunity to come back in life, I'll be a man. I would love to come back as a man.
No, but the thing is, here's the thing: it's again, we know that people are gonna do what they're gonna do, but again, I think every time people try and have an honest conversation about the fact that for some people, monogamy is just not going to be natural to them, right? We try and have that conversation, people get in their feelings and it stops, and then it continues and continues, right? And it's clear. I mean, listen, the evidence is there. And actually, I forget the episode where Uncle Big was there. I think he gave it's also a maturity thing. People mature at different stages, right? And actually, that's why maybe like I'm like, Derrick is he's like you said, he's 31. That is actually quite young, right? For him to actually be giving life advice. And which is why I was on the episode I had with said where I talk about his best friend. I was like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 26. I was like, okay.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, like, come back when you guys are 46.
Yeah, when you're older.
Because and that's the thing. Like, sometimes it is an age thing, and that's why Uncle was even saying like, I remember one time I was like, you guys need to be like, if you're in your 30s, like if a guy is in their 40s, like forget guys in your 30s because energy, too much energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I can attest to that as well. Like, and I'm one who was like always been like, oh, I'm thinking to my 30s, in 30s. And I think it's a way of kind of holding on to your 30s if they are. You'll understand this as they're slipping away. I'm heading to my late 30s, and anyway, story for another day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and we have talked about this as well in our 100% support polygamy episode, where you're right. For some men, it's not going to be the thing for them. It's not going to be staying with one woman. It's not going to be just having one person. It'll be like having separate 1, 2, 3, and men put us in some men put us in polygamous relationships.
And that's the thing is, listen, I think the issue is you should never manipulate anyone's reality, right? So, I always say this to guys. I was like, you will be surprised what a woman who really loves you will accept if you're honest. It doesn't make it right, but I've had these conversations with guys, right? Because when you manipulate someone's reality, right? Because someone may be thinking, oh, happily ever after, but actually maybe the guy's kind of like, nah, I just want to have fun or whatever, right? Then let the woman decide, does she want to stick around or not? And then if she wants to stick around, at least she can manage in her mind, like she can be clearer, okay, this is what's going on. But the time you manipulate someone's reality, that is wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
That is so wrong. And yeah, so I think that the issue with the Derrick Jaxn thing was just more like the hypocrisy, and it's just the whole like being absolute about something. I think
the absolute opposite. Yeah.
So
it's so wrong. But yeah, I think maybe in future what they need to start doing is putting a little cheating syllabus or a cheating handbook or something. We should talk about it more openly, so that it doesn't come as I think we need to like acknowledge it, because at the end of the day, it's a pandemic. It's literally it's everywhere. I think the only place that there hasn't been cheating was in the Bible. That's the only place cheating. Cheating in the Bible.
Because David
was of course
his wife.
That's true. Okay, so there you go. So it started from ages ago, and it's just getting worse. I don't know, man. I don't know. Have you ever been cheated on, Natasha?
Of course, I have.
You want to share a little bit before we round off?
Spectacularly. Spectacularly.
What happened?
You spectacularly. But anyway.
You're going to tell us.
No. I think the people listen to this podcast.
Oh.
Okay. But I think it's also about each individual being clear about what it is that they are looking for in partnerships and in relationships, right? Because I will be honest with you, like, it's only recently that because I came from that background where boy meets girl, maybe they ask you out, whatever, but then you're now girlfriend and boyfriend. You don't even have the conversation about our exclusive. I mean, of course we are. Like, you know what I mean? And you have a whole, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be together. Then we're going to settle down. We're going to get married. We're going to have kids. Like, of course, right? So, and a lot of us, I think, we just genuinely come from that. And then, but sometimes it's, unfortunately, I don't know what's happening in this day and age. You just maybe need to be clear, like, what is it that we're doing? And I think each individual also has to be clear about what is it that you as an individual are looking for in a partnership. And then you also make sure you get what it is that you are after. Are you after financial security? Right? You need to be clear. This is what I am after. This is what I'm after, financial security. Maybe I want to have kids who are intelligent, and this man is intelligent. The DNA pool would be that. Even this guy, what's his name? Ocho Cinco. What's his name? He's a basketball player. I think. Or NFL. He was saying, so he's got like many kids, right? With different women, but he was saying that one of the things is he actually asked the women, like, if they play sports or if they were athletes, because he was like, he wants his kids to be sports people. And then actually, like, most of his kids are now like playing junior football and all that stuff, because he asked that. So I'm just saying, we have so that if maybe, I don't know, something goes wrong, you got what you wanted. Maybe you have those kids who are brainy, you have those kids who are sporty, you have financial security, you had this, but it's because we just give ourselves, and it's natural to just give yourself without defining what it is you want to take out of. It should kind of be transactional in a way, I think.
No, I agree. And I don't know, I was trying to think whether it is because of previous experiences that have given me the voice, or given women or men or whatever it is, the voice to kind of say, you know what, this is what I want. Because you don't want to have your time wasted. You don't want to be with somebody whose goals don't align with yours. So I think now it's just a lot easier to kind of like, oh, you know what, this is where I'm at, this is what I want, and really be specific. And, then you come down to compromising, but you can be like, you know what, on these particular values, I refuse to compromise. And this is, because this is what I want, But yeah.
And this, it's not a science. You can never get it down. There's always an element of risk. You know what I mean? Like it's there's always, but as long as you sort of just know that,
yes, there's an element of risk, but there's things that you can say, these are my core values, and I am not moving from that. I'm not saying have 1,001 core values, but there must be something that you can be like, oh, you know what, this is one thing I'm not willing to compromise on. It might be religion, it might be somebody who has a job, it might be that you particularly just want a woman or you want a man, or whatever it is, but there must be one thing that you can be like, you know what, no, if you don't want kids in the future, there's no point in us starting something, if you compromise on that, you would literally come back to that in a few years, and it's going to come back to haunt you. And someone's like, oh, you know what, but I told you that this is not what I wanted. So yes, risk, but also just being very firm with just a few core values that you're like, you know what, this is what these things I will not compromise on.
Yeah, no, definitely. But listen, relationships can be beautiful, and it's just this Derrick Jaxn situation was just interesting. But yeah, I think love lives here.
Love lives here indeed. So yeah, anyway, all good. Signing out.
Yes, wrap it up.
Where can people find you on Instagram?
At Gellen's Guys.
Your personal Instagram account.
Gellen's Guys.
Guys, follow us on all on social media. So Instagram, we are at
Gellen's Guys.
Twitter,
Gellen's Guys.
Facebook,
Gellen's Guys podcast,
and YouTube,
Gellen's Guys.
And we're also on Patreon, guys. So sign up to us and get exclusive Ngosi.
Yes, and shout outs to our Patreon guys. You are helping us to power this thing on. And if you're not too sure about Patreon, about the monthly commitment, you can buy us coffee. Just go and buy me a coffee. You can just buy us coffee. But yeah, if you'd like to join Patreon, it just means that you get an additional episode per month, and early access to visuals. And then also we've got a members only Instagram page. We're going to have some fun on there, some IG live.
Cannot wait. Awesome.
And where can people find you on Twitter?
Xolie NC.
Okay, cool. And if you've been listening to this podcast, I am Natasha.
Xolie.
I sometimes go by that. We realize we didn't even introduce ourselves.
I know.
But it's fine. It's fine, guys. Take care. I was trying to think what we should say if you got to the end of the pod. What should people say? Hashtag helmet of salvation. That should be the name of the pod.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually.
Helmet of salvation.
There's someone on I've gone with it, or social media, where they're putting the key things that have happened in like the past few months. Like in January, it was the US invasion of those terrorists. Yeah. February, I think it was. Was it Gorilla Glue, whatever. Sorry, Gorilla Glue Girl. Yeah. And then March. What was March?
Derrick Jaxn, and also Meghan and Harry.
Yeah. So there we go. We've got a couple for this. Looking forward to the rest of the year. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a real good year.
Listen, I'm just waiting for them to open these borders.
But
the thing is, I don't know what's going to happen with the red list. Like Zim and SA are still on the red list. So.
Yeah. Tough.
I don't know. All right, then. Xolie, lovely as always.
See you guys.
Yeah, boy.